Hello, my name is Prathamesh and I'm the founder of the Civilization Project. Welcome to today's special edition. I have with me Anand Shankar, who's an ex journalist and who's working as a social entrepreneur now. Uh, Before going into today's discussion, I just wanted to give you a brief about what the Civilization Project is. You see, we are battling with a lot of global challenges like climate change, poverty, hunger, constant state of wars. And if you really have to resolve all of these challenges, very strongly believe that the entire human civilization has to be connected together as one single entity. And that is the intent of the Civilization Project. But to achieve that, it is very important to understand how this world really works. And that's the reason behind starting this series called Decisions in Focus, where we'll try to understand how this world works using this lens of decision making. Coming to today's topic, on Wednesday there was a severe flood which was triggered in the state of Sikkim. There was a glacial lake जहाँ पे cloudburst हुआ था, and it triggered a massive and it damaged a lot of different dams on 3,000 tourists which are still stranded. Roads and highways have been damaged. All the areas of Lachen, Lachung, and Chungthan, they are completely disconnected. There are communication disruptions. Internet is fluctuating. Eight very vital bridges in this area have also been reported to be damaged. In addition to that, there was some loss to the army as well. There are 22 army men which are still missing. So overall, a very bad situation. Yesterday, I came across Anand's thread, very presented a lot of insights and information about the Teesta 3 project, which has been completely damaged in in this entire flood. So we'll be talking to Anand about this entire situation. What is this flood? What is this glacial outburst which has caused this flood? What has the damage been done to this dam? And what were the mistakes which actually led to this damage? So without further ado, welcoming Mr. Anand to this show. Hi, Anand.
Hi, Prathamesh. It's nice to be on air with you.
Thank you so much, and I'm so happy that you are here. I have a lot of questions already, and I'm hoping to learn as much as I can about this event from you.
Great. You can start off.
Superb. So I think before we even go into the technicalities, can you just explain what is the current situation there right now? What is the information you have?
Oh well, I'm sitting in Uttarakhand, so I'm following the events in Sikkim very closely. Right now, what is happening is disaster response, and the current focus must be on infrastructure restoration and humanitarian relief. I'm sure that's
Yes.
the focus areas right now. That is how a disaster response plan. Is written that they will be concentrating on humanitarian relief and restoration of critical infrastructure like drinking water, roads, electricity,
Yes.
cell phone towers. So that is the phase that is going on right now.
Right, right. And also, more importantly, how did this all start? Matlab, you had mentioned in your thread about this GLOF event, which was apparently predictable, and yet we could not control it. We could not take any precautionary measures. So, can you throw some light on that? What is GLOF
Okay,
and how did?
so yeah, so the trigger for this is a natural geological phenomena called, glacial lake outburst flood. That is GLOF, the acronym that a lot of people have been struggling with
Right.
the last 3 days. So, it's
Yes.
something that's dropped on everybody, all of a sudden. Though people who have been following Himalayas and writing reports on the challenges in the Himalayas, especially the geological challenges. So it's a very familiar term for us. Um,
Okay.
this is something that has been known for a long time because the biggest GLOF event happened in Peru, the country of Peru in South America, in the Andes mountain range in 1941, when
Okay.
1,800 people died, and that's
Wow.
what opened the eyes of the world to this type of a natural event. Though let us, it has probably been going on for eons. glaciers
Okay.
and lakes bursting and stuff. But of course, once humans started settling in numbers in mountains, this has started affecting them.
Right.
So after that, post World War II, and we started developing, this industrialization, and humans started
Yes.
developing, and the UN was formed, and they started looking at natural disasters very, very seriously, right? And
Yes.
this was identified as a very important natural disaster. So since the 1960s, there have been efforts to identify areas that are vulnerable to this GLOF, and there have been efforts to notify these areas, sensitize populations, sensitize governments, local disaster response authorities, everything. I mean, so it's not a new phenomenon. It's a
Okay.
well understood phenomenon. See, I was telling someone else the other day. It's like the tsunami, right?
Right.
Everybody knows for a long time that tsunamis happen, but all of us
Right.
in India suddenly woke up to the tsunami when it hit us in 2004. I mean, like, if any of you remember it, but
Right.
Marina Beach and Besant Nagar Beach in Chennai are suddenly below 7-10 feet of water, and people are like, "Oh, what is happening here?" I mean, like, where is
Right.
this? Go
Right.
take the dictionary, see what is tsunami, because back then there was only Google, there was not even social media,
Yeah.
so it
Yes.
was an eye opener. Right, so like that, GLOF has been a thing that has been studied, and it has happened elsewhere in the world. In South America, in America, in Iceland. It has happened in Pakistan in 2018. It's happened multiple
Okay.
times in Tibet. It has happened multiple times in Nepal.
Okay.
Right? So we had been fortunate that we have not had a big GLO event in India, in the Indian Himalayas. So that is from Arunachal Pradesh to Ladakh. We have not had a
Right.
big GLOF event. So this has not, entered our consciousness. So
Okay.
this happened, and if you want me to explain how this happens, it's very, very simple. You have a glacier and you have a moraine field. What is a moraine field? Moraine field is moraine is basically rocks that are left behind by glaciers. They're cut by glaciers.
Okay.
These smooth,
Right.
cut rocks. They are left behind by glaciers. So as a glacier is retreating, it's leaving behind exposing the moraine field under it.
Okay.
And it so happens that a glacier is not like a uniform thing, so it could be it could have dips and divots, and I mean elevations and stuff, which is covered up by the ice. So when the ice is retreating, these depressions are getting exposed, and that's where the water from the glacier, the ice is turning into water, and it's filling that up, right?
Right.
But it is blocked by a bunch of rock in front of it, like a dam,
Right.
a
Right.
natural dam,
Like a
a
natural dam.
rubble. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's being blocked in front of it, and as the water builds up behind it, everything. You take a plastic tank, you take a concrete dam, you take a natural rubble dam. It can only hold so much water pressure. As the
Yes.
water keeps building behind it, it becomes more and more and more dangerous. So
Yes.
this tipping point has been building. Like, this glacier has been monitored from the 1970s very periodically. Every few years, scientists and researchers have been taking measurements, figuring out how big the lake is, estimating how much water it holds. I was telling a journalist just today that please, the government has been well aware of this, and as far as the government goes, and see, there are two parts to this. What has happened in Sikkim? One is the natural disaster, which is the glacier bursting.
Right.
Okay. The second part after the natural disaster is the dam bursting. That is a
Yes.
man-made disaster,
Okay.
right? Don't club both together. Don't club both together. So that's what I was telling someone today. That, listen, it's two different things. There
Yes.
is uh, there are lapses in the man-made disaster, but as far as the natural disaster goes, the government was well aware that this lake has a problem, right? They were monitoring it using satellite. ground level monitoring. They tried attempts to drain the lake using a siphon. This was done in 2016 by Sonam
Okay.
Wangchuk of Sekmol from Ladakh. Right?
Okay.
They have been doing their best. You
Okay.
need to understand there are people, on social media writing random stuff like, why didn't the government put a dynamite stick and release the pressure? You know,
Right.
you know,
Doesn't make any sense.
you can't do anything. They don't understand the fragility of the terrain, of the geostrata in these locations. You have to be very, 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 very careful even to go and observe these things. You have to take
Right.
extreme precautions that you do not disturb it in any way. Because
Yes.
if it gets disturbed in any way, there is no way for you to rectify it, no way for you to balance it. It will burst, right?
Yes.
And it is not predictable at all. It is a bomb.
Okay.
Literally, it
Okay.
is that. That if it bursts, there it's in Hindi they say chittar. It will go in any direction it wants,
Right.
right? So you've got to be very, very careful, and that is what was being done by the government and all the agencies concerned. They were monitoring this and ensuring that at least we have some knowledge of what is going on there. There has been a
Got it.
failure of some of the monitoring devices that were supposed to warn us when the water burst,
Okay.
right? That is a separate issue. That has to be investigated by whoever is the agency which installed the
Right.
monitoring devices. That why this has failed.
Right.
It would have been a failure if there were no more monitoring devices.
Right.
That there were monitoring devices and they failed is a different issue, right?
Interesting.
So, yeah, in that sense, this was very well understood. This natural phenomenon was very well understood. It was monitored. It happened. Now,
Right.
investigations are on to figure out why it burst, which is very important. You need to know why this
Yes.
lake burst because there can be
Yes.
multiple reasons for it. One theory initially was that it burst because of heavy rain. That theory has been ruled out. Okay, even
Okay.
the Indian Meteorological Department has come out with a statement saying that it was not a cloudburst. This was not because of rain. Okay,
Okay. That's interesting.
so yeah, that has been ruled out. Now there could be other factors. There could have been an avalanche. There could have been a rock fall, or it's just that the stone which was holding back the water reached its limit. Right. So
Okay.
there are multiple factors, and the investigations will reveal. As far as GLOF across the Himalayas is concerned, there are a lot of studies that have been done. There is an entire list. Like the National Disaster Management Authority has a list. Every state government which has a lake, such a lake in its territory, has a list. So this is very well mapped out, very well studied. Monitoring devices are in place. As I said, monitoring devices have failed. Now, that will be investigated now, and I'm sure it will be
Right.
rectified. Right.
Right.
So this is a very well understood phenomenon. Everything is in good standing as far as knowledge of this particular natural disaster is concerned.
Got it. So let me just summarize because this was a lot of information to even to take in. But so if I have to summarize, JLF is a very pretty much known phenomenon, at least in the
Yes.
geological circles, and people who are also working with the government in those kind of areas. These events, we know about these events where we have been monitoring these events, and this was not a surprise per se. कि JLF कैसे आ गया. The interesting distinction that you made is GLOF, as in the lake outburst, was pretty much it's not it's beyond our hands because it's a natural event, but the dam that was damaged, that was definitely a man-made disaster, right? So I would like to take that discussion a little bit there because that is the thread which also triggered our conversation. So it was a 1200 megawatt hydroelectric power plant, right? With a
Yes.
lot of significant investment. Now you also mentioned that there were monitoring devices which were already installed. So the government was already aware in terms of this can be a possibility in near future. You mentioned they tried a lot of different solutions to drain the lake. You also mentioned siphon technique by Sonam Wangchuk. Uh, but then, if all of this was happening, why then was it completely not preventable in terms of the damage that was that the dam took, or
Okay,
was there any
so
other precautionary measure which we could have made?
okay, so this is the dense and tricky territory, because this is where we are going into unknowns, right?
Okay.
Um, till now we have spoken about the known. The known is that
Yes.
GLOF is a phenomenon that can happen in this area, and it is very well marked out and stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Now here you come into the failure of this dam. Let us
Right.
be very clear. This GLOF phenomenon was known before this dam was planned,
Yes.
right? It was known before it was planned. It was known that this was a high threat area, and the planning process for the dam, it looks like, has not taken this into account. Okay.
I just have an image which I found on the same topic. I would just like to share that so that
Sure,
you
sure,
know.
sure.
Yeah. So I think I found this image on the net again, which maps out all the lakes on the Himalayan range, and I think these yellow triangles are all the GLOF events which have been tracked and monitored.
Yeah, I think they are the lakes, not the. Okay, fine, fine. The events. Okay, I haven't seen this map before, but yeah.
Yeah. No, so you were talking about GLOF being the known party, and even then we had this damage to the dam.
Yes, because you can clearly see it's all been mapped out.
Yes.
There are multiple maps like this prepared by different agencies, different scientists, that this has been mapped out. And this has been known before this dam was planned. Before
Right.
the architects of the dam put down a plan for this dam, they
Right.
know that this exists. This problem, this event could happen in this area. So
Right.
that is the first failure. That see, it's one thing to anticipate an unknown event,
Right.
but you have failed to anticipate a known event.
Right.
Right? Say, to give you clarity, an earthquake is an unknown event,
Yes.
right? As of today, we don't have any way to predict an earthquake, right?
Okay.
To accurately say
Right.
that by 7 o'clock there is an earthquake that's going to happen, we have no way to predict it. So, what do we do
Right.
when we build a dam or any big infrastructure, nuclear plant, whatever? We take data of which is the worst earthquake that has happened here,
Right.
right? And what is the seismic zone that we fall in, right? Say,
Right.
for example, the worst earthquake here was magnitude 8. You will say that, okay, I have to engineer it to magnitude 9 or magnitude 10. I'm just giving an example.
Right.
I
Yes.
was giving an example. Okay. Why did we not follow that process for GLOF? That we know that you're building a dam in an area that is susceptible to GLOF. Okay. Fine, we've not had a GLOF event in India, but it's happened across the world. There have been enough studies,
Right.
there have been enough simulations, right, to show that how much water will come if a GLOF event happens and stuff. We did not follow it, right? And
Right.
then there have been operational failures, if
Okay.
you can call it. Uh, One, I told you, there are two types of monitoring systems, with water. One is flow meters, and then, flood, monitoring, tripwire type systems,
Okay.
both systems look like they have failed in this particular incident. Both are
Okay.
supposed to trigger alarms. I don't want to speculate on why they have failed because there are multiple motives. Okay. Now, the first failure has happened there. The second failure is a failure directly at the dam on the part of the operator of the dam. The chairman of the company that runs the dam has come out and told the media that by the time they got a verbal warning from some ITBP post, that the warning came via mobile phone or something, radio or mobile phone, that there is flood coming, and they had to
Okay.
scramble their staff and to go open the emergency floodgates, right?
But are
The
these
the,
are
the
these not
spillway.
electronic? But these should be electrically
This
controlled
is what
gates,
I
right?
don't know. This is what I don't know. I mean, all of these things. They are different with every dam. It's not like
Okay.
everything is a Maruti 800. All these are all
Right.
custom built. Every dam is a custom piece.
Interesting.
So you don't know. What was the mechanism? Was it not? You couldn't open it automatically, or somebody needed to physically go and press a button there. Nobody knows about
Okay.
this. That is only the dam operator can enlighten us on why this has happened. That 12, 13 people had to run to the dam in the middle of the night, risking their life apparently, and try to open the gate. Or was the gate jammed? By the
Okay.
time they reached, was the gate jammed? We don't know these
Even
things.
that is a
It's
possibility.
wrong
Even that is
to
a
yeah,
possibility.
it's wrong to speculate at this point. Apparently they were unable to open the dam spillway gates in time, and they had to
Okay.
retreat because they saw the water rapidly rising, and fearing for their lives, they retreated. And
Okay.
the dam was gone in less than 10 minutes. It was gone
Okay.
in less than 10 minutes. That's a flash. That's a second. When you're talking about events like this, that's like 1 second. It's
Yes.
gone.
Yes.
It's gone.
That's hardly
And
any
the
time to
entire
react.
the retaining wall of the storage pond, the concrete dam, 60 meters high, filled with like a few million tons of concrete and rubble. Uh, it's completely given way. That's a very bad sign. And there are some reports that are saying that the entire foundation of the dam got eroded,
Okay.
uh, which is unheard of,
Uh,
because that's you drill into the riverbed, uh, and dig till you reach the bedrock, right?
right.
You reach the bedrock and then you grout into it, and it's a very complicated procedure, building the foundation of a dam. There are
Yeah.
things that are done to ensure that the water doesn't seep under the dam. So it's a very a technical field, right?
Yes.
And this goes
You had.
through one second, let me finish. This goes through
Yeah.
multiple statutory design approval, structural approval. When it's constructed, there is a separate approval before you are allowed to even fill water in it. So there
Right.
are multiple checks and balances in this, and the fact that something like this has failed is a cause for alarm.
Yes, definitely it is. When you were explaining about this dam and the foundations being eroded, you had also mentioned in your post that it was a rock-filled concrete dam, right? It was not a pure concrete dam. So does that make any
Yeah, so
difference in
basically
terms of
what they
what is
do
the
is
pressure
that
it can handle?
you use rocks to save on a little bit of concrete. I mean, if you want me to explain it in layman terms, that is
Right.
that. Yeah, that is that.
But does that affect the structural integrity of the dam,
No,
especially
it
in
doesn't.
terms of
As I
handling
said,
this kind of a pressure?
see, I told you now, it goes through multiple levels of checks and balances. So
Right.
it would have been approved. See, all these things approved for certain limits,
Right.
right? If you even take a car tire, for example, there will be written on it that this is good till 130 kilometers an hour, right? You take
Yes.
a fighter plane, they'll say this is good till 10 Gs or 9 Gs. They'll tell you that is that it can take this amount of stress. So whoever approved and designed this dam, they would have done their own calculations and come up that okay, it should handle this much, right? This is
Okay.
where I'm telling you now that the problem is they have not accounted for a GLOF.
Right.
I have seen this myself personally when I have seen lots of documents and to do with dams. I interacted with people, contractors, firms like Nagarjuna. Sorry, I'm not saying brand names. You shouldn't say brand names
No
because
stress. No stress.
that'll take a different
Yep.
term altogether. I'm just saying
Yeah.
big engineering companies, NHPC and everything, everybody that, they were all very dismissive about
Okay.
GLOF,
Okay.
Uh, it's also, a very Indian um, thing I would say is that we tend to believe that it is an act of God. It will never happen, or if it happens, we have no control over it.
Right.
Right? It's a fatalistic behavior, if we can call it that. And I got a
Yeah.
sense of that.
Okay.
Or in
Okay.
Hindi, they say "Bhagwan Bharose" mode.
यप, अपने आप ही इंडिया में बहुत सारा काम ऐसा ही होता है, भगवान भरोसे ही होता है।
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
But then
that is
again,
the
it
feeling that I got. Yeah.
got it. But then again, it begs me to ask a question. So again, imagine if I'm the project manager, right? So if I'm the one who's probably planning the entire dam project right now, and you are the geological researcher who's working on gloves. Uh, if I were to account for GLOF, and if I have to make, if I had to make any changes to the structure of the dam or placement of the dam, or in terms of early warning systems or any other these kind of warning systems which could have avoided this destruction, what was missing out?
Yeah, I'll tell you. It's a very simple answer. If they had to account for GLOF, they would have had to spend more money,
Okay.
and that is the reason they skipped it. Um, it's for people who have not covered power projects and these things. I'll tell you. It's a very simple thing.
Okay.
Whenever such projects are conceptualized, right? If all budgets, everything finally is translated into cost per megawatt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, these numbers are all big. It is very difficult to wrap your head around it. So I will tell you this very, very simply. Imagine if they say that the dam will cost 10 rupees to build. Okay.
Yep.
They will convert this 10 rupees into a cost per megawatt. The cost per megawatt will include recovery of the construction cost of the dam,
Yes.
then the operation cost of the dam, and
Yes.
finally the profit margin.
Yes.
Okay, that gives you your cost per megawatt. It's a very, I'm giving it in a, I'm literally bringing it down
It's a very
to a school math,
oversimplific. Yeah.
yeah, school
Yeah.
math level. Okay. Um, Now, when I tell you this math, you would have immediately realized that it has to be competitive at a cost per megawatt level.
Yes.
Now, power is traded in something called a power exchange in India, and
Yes.
it is traded at a cost per unit, cost per megawatt.
Yes.
So, if you're going to bid for building a dam somewhere and you have to go to a funding agency and tell them that, yeah, I need a few thousand crores to build a dam, they'll say, okay, we'll give you a few thousand crores. Just tell me what's your cost per megawatt and will it be competitive with respect to what power is being sold at in the country. If you are able to match the price that power is being sold at or deliver it at 1 rupee less, where you can, people will buy from you because it's cheaper, then you've got a
Right.
business model in your hand, right? It's the typical way a business plan works.
Right.
So now the problem that happens with these construction projects is that it's very difficult to predict the cost of construction. There are
Fair.
very many unknowns, and
Yes.
these unknowns have been highest in the eastern Himalayas. That was
Okay.
the focus of my investigative stories when I did this in 2008 and 2009, that these
Okay.
unknowns are not being accounted for properly. Unknowns are many. One is geology. I mean, the geology data is very, very new, right?
Okay.
Not been peer
That's a very
reviewed.
polite way of
It's
putting
good
it.
quality data done by honest people, right? But it lacks that depth of, oh, we've studied this for years, if I can put it simply.
Right.
Okay. Then
Right.
water flow data. The primary data that any dam depends on is how much water is flowing, right? That data is very new for that part of
Okay.
the Himalayas. Eastern Himalayas.
Okay.
Western Himalayas is well understood. Eastern Himalayas is not. Water flow data is not reliable. Okay, then you have logistics challenges, getting
Yes.
things to places, heavy machinery and everything for construction. Many times, dam companies, contractors who are building dams have to spend money from their own pocket to build new bridges, new roads, and everything, to carry a heavy turbine, some machinery, some transformer, everything to the site. So you have to account for those costs, and it just it's a very crazy bit of math that goes in there. So what happens is that it's like this year you're going and asking for a business loan from a bank, and if you
Yes.
straight away go with like one fancy sum, and the bank manager will look at it in one shot and say, boss, you're never going to be able to pay this back. What will you hide things? You'll
Right.
hide things, right? And this is where the magic of development financing comes. All your Asian Development Bank, World Bank, Japan Bank, all of these guys, they give you money at
Right.
1%, 2% interest, right?
Yes.
They're
Yes.
basically giving you capital, and they just want the capital back. They are not going to earn
Yes.
much out of the interest. So these
Yes.
guys, what happens is that they will only fund you if your project is viable as a business. Okay,
Okay.
so you when you're taking to them, you will hide all these things, because these decisions are not purely financial decisions. They also have a political motive, that Japan would
Yes.
want to support India to build a dam, right?
Yes.
So you just have to ensure that you tick that box. You know,
Yes.
बाद में देख लेंगे. It's like, अरे, we'll see later what happens, right? So that kind of
Yes.
creative fixing happens in these things. So this is where, if you account for GLOF and you have to engineer structures to meet that level of water flow, you're basically done,
Right.
right? Your cost is going to go through the roof. And this is my theory, that these events have not been catered for, is purely to ensure that you fit into the cost per megawatt and you cash in your loan. Now, when you
Right.
cash in your loan, this is where the beauty of development economics and lending for these projects goes even further. Is that you take a housing loan today, they say we're giving you 70 lakhs. If the real estate developer ends up building your house at 90 lakhs, bank will not give you another 20 lakhs if you're not eligible, right? Bank will not
Yes.
give you. You have to put the 20 lakhs from your pocket. That's not the way it
Yes.
works in development economics, right? The guy has given you 5,000 crores, like the case of this dam. The budget
Right.
cost was 5,700 and some chiller crore. Okay,
Okay.
5,700 crores for convenience, right? They gave them 5,700 crores. Okay, finally, when it was constructed and finished, it became 14,000 crores. So what happens is, they give them the 5,000 crores. Okay, these guys spend it. Then they go back to this guy and say that, hey, you
Yes.
know what? I spent 5,000 crores. It's costing a little more. Give me some more money.
Yeah.
Now, these guys, they are in a quandary. They don't want interest.
Yes.
They want their capital back. Now, they know that if I don't give him more money, I'm not getting my
Yes.
capital back. So they give him more capital.
Typical sunk cost fallacy. Yeah.
Yeah, the exact sunk cost fallacy. They go give them more money. They said, okay,
Yes.
fine. You want another 5,000 crores, take it. You want another 4,000 crores, take it. Just finish the damn thing,
Right.
right? So this is the way cost escalation works in this. So it begs my question, that why these events are not being catered for. Because
Exactly.
it's very quixotic right now. The chairman of the dam has, he's gone and said that now thousands of crores are lost. Now it is going to cost almost an equal sum of money to rebuild this thing. So you've already
Right.
spent 14,000 crores, which is 3x almost 3x the sanctioned
Initial
budget.
estimate.
Another 8 or 9,000 crores to you know build it back.
Right.
So now 14,000 plus some 8,000, 9,000. So this 14,000 crores was supposed to have been paid back in 35 years. So all of these things have a
Okay.
time period.
Yes.
Okay, that this dam was supposed to be fully depreciated and paid for in 35 years.
Okay.
Okay, now that is shot out of the window. Okay,
Right.
you only run it for 6 years, and now you have to again build it. So you had
Rebuild it.
29 years left, and another 8 or 9,000 crores, which will take another 25 years to pay. Okay, so
Right.
30 plus 25, you now the repayment period has gone to 55 years
Right.
theoretically, right? So this project is financially unviable.
Yes.
So it is completely financially unviable, and this is repeating with every project. There is not a single project that has not seen a cost escalation, and we are not talking about 10%, 20% cost escalation. Your Sida, you're talking
It's
about
generally 2x or 3x.
3x. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I say my philosophy with this thing, hydro projects, has not been activism, right?
Okay.
It's been simply been follow the money. That's what I
Right.
was taught, right? Because when I did this reporting, I was in a business newspaper, and my editors told me one thing: "Arey yaar, leave all this bloody activism out,
Right.
right? We are not interested in that. We are a business newspaper. Some guy is
Yes.
giving him money on a loan to build this dam. Your job is to go and see if this is financially viable or not. That is
Right.
what matters. If it is not financially viable, it is a failed project.
Right. No, it makes
Right?
sense.
And
It
all
completely
these
makes sense.
projects hit that particular bottleneck, that they turn out to be financial deadweights.
Got it. So again, thank you so much for all of these insights here. It's been fascinating to hear all of this. But when you were talking, there was this one concept
I
which
mean,
was
because this is
constantly ringing
very
in my
dense
head.
stuff.
I'm loving this here. To be very honest, I'm loving this. I love going deep into these kind of issues. But then when you were talking about all of this, there was this one thing which was running in my head. So as a student of decision making, it's a very interesting area for me as well. It's called a trade-off, right? When we are making any kind of decision, especially when it comes to these kind of large scale projects, or maybe even nation level or national decisions, state level decisions, we cannot have any absolutely right or absolutely wrong version of any decision, right? We always have to make some kind
Yes.
of trade-offs.
There are
And
compromises,
being
yeah.
a developing, yeah, so and being a developing country, we'll always have shortage of resources. We'll always have n number of things to do, but only half the money required. So money always becomes a very constraining factor. Now yes, sunk cost fallacy को हम लोग ने weaponize कर दिया, and we use it very effectively to do a lot of things. But without getting there in terms of trade-offs, like just purely talking of trade-offs, so GLOF definitely was a very important risk factor, which, in your opinion, should have been considered. And if you look at that image also back then, there were a lot of GLOF events in the area, especially considering Sikkim, for example. I can see a lot of GLOF events in Nepal, in Bhutan, which have been already tracked, right? So it should have been on the radar. But it, purely in terms of cost, right? So if we are to so let's assume the current cost of their building that dam was, say, 10 megawatt, 10 rupees per megawatt, right? And if they have to consider all the precautionary and fail-safe measures for a GLF event, that cost goes to 20 per megawatt, like literally doubles the cost only for that one single event. Which cannot be predicted कि ये कब होगा. It's not as frequent कि हर साल होगा, right? वो कभी भी आ सकता है, कितने दिन कभी भी आ सकता है, right? So maybe that is the trade off which the government, or which the party involved in terms of the construction company, they made. And in my view, it's a valid trade off, right? Because in hindsight, all of us are wise, but at that moment in time, maybe that cost was
No,
not
it's not.
justified for that
It's
one
not a
singular
valid
event.
trade-off, Prathamesh. It's not a valid trade-off.
Mhm.
There is a certain design
Again, just
philosophy
as a
that is.
disclaimer, I'm
Yeah,
again just as a disclaimer, I'm just playing the role of a devil's advocate here. This is not a
yeah.
position I'm
I
taking.
understand. I understand
I'm just
that,
trying to,
but
yeah,
it's not a
yeah,
valid trade-off for two reasons. One is that there is a design philosophy that a dam is considered to have a theoretical life of 100 years. You take it
okay,
as a 100-year lifespan, and it has to handle the worst possible disaster in 100 years. You're supposed to game it, right? You're
right,
supposed to game it. You're supposed to come up with what is the worst possible disaster in 100 years, and you're supposed to cater for that. Okay?
right,
If you have not done that, then it's a failure. Okay? And
okay,
second thing, there are lives at stake.
yes,
There are lives at stake. So this is an undertaking that has lives at risk if it fails, right? So
yes,
that responsibility is on you if you're engineering the structure, and this is very, very important. That we are
yes,
extremely fortunate that this has happened in a small state with very little, population that lives on the river banks, right?
yes,
And the fact that it was not that big that it would create havoc in the plains, because all these rivers
Yes.
enter the plains, and there the water flow dynamics are completely different. And so that's why,
Yes.
we are very lucky. We are very lucky
Yes.
that uh, lives have been lost, but it is not as bad as it could have been. So these two are the reasons why I would say is that this is not a trade-off that can be made.
Got it. Got it. Fair enough. See, human cost definitely is something which is non-negotiable, which I can completely understand. But then again, that begs me to ask you a question. So there are a lot of infrastructure projects which are happening in the entire Himalayan belt, right? Especially in the last few years, ever since the conflict with China has, escalated. The speed of infrastructure development in this entire belt has escalated. So do you think that these kind of GOLFs, and even in your another tweet, you had mentioned some other types of floods as well,
Yeah, so
landslide, so LLOFs and MOFs. So yeah,
that's the
so
important
do you
thing.
think that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
do you
the
think
thing
adequate
is,
measures
like
are being
you
taken?
rightly said, it's not the infrastructure that is the problem. It's the speed of the construction that is the problem. That is what I
Right.
have been trying to convey in my communication. That infrastructure is not evil.
Yes.
Right? Infrastructure is not evil. What is the problem is that we are trying to do too much in too short a, with very little baseline data to work with. We're trying to play catch up. We
Right.
haven't done much for 50, 60 years, and suddenly we realize the fallacy of that, and then we are grasping to catch up on it in 5 years or 10 years. So that is creating problems of its own. That's where you don't need to stop, you need to apply the brakes, step down a gear, like how we drive in the mountains. Don't drive in top gear. Step down to third
Right.
gear, second gear. Just slow
Right.
the thing down. That assess. If I'm building a road and I want to widen a road.
Hello. I'm not sure. He got disconnected, so I'm waiting for a text update from him. I hope he joins back again. Let's see. I hope it was not a power cut. What is mitigating? Sandhya ma'am, if Anand joins the stream again, I will definitely ask her a question. Thank you for sharing it on the comments. Thank you so much. I think it was a power cut because even messages are not getting delivered to him on WhatsApp. Uh, so maybe we'll wait for a couple of minutes, and if not, we'll end the stream. Okay, he just mentioned he is joining back again. So till the time he joins, there are these few more angles which I want to really explore. Uh, so if you look at the map of Sikkim, so this is the map of Sikkim. Uh, yeah, so this is exactly where the Teesta River flows through. This technically cuts almost this almost technically cuts Sikkim into two different parts. Now these three areas of Lachung, Lachen, and Chungtha, I think these are on the northeast part of Sikkim, and now these areas have been completely cut off. I the angle that I do want to explore is if there are any security concerns, because now a lot of infrastructure in this area has been damaged. A lot of these bridges have been destroyed and damaged. A lot of these highways have been damaged. Uh, and one of the biggest uh, losses in this entire event has been the army loss, where even the first news was 23 army personnel missing. One of them was found, and yes, and Gangtok as well. So this is also one more area which I would definitely love to explore. If Anand comes back, I'll definitely ask him this question. This looks like a such a peaceful place, though. This is the Teesta River. Looks such a beautiful place to go and visit. So this was another image which was shared on Twitter. So these are images captured by ISRO, and this is the Lhonak Lake. So we can see that the area under cover in terms of water has been growing a lot, and this was actually 162 hectares of water in this lake, and this was after the flood. So almost 100 hectares of water had flowed down from this lake. uh, I'm not I cannot even imagine कि क्या डिस्ट्रक्शन हुआ होगा वहाँ पे, and how scary the situation must be. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah,
You can hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So, can you tell me where we left off?
Yeah, so we're talking about speed of infrastructure being the actual problem. We just need to slow down a bit and make sure that we are not cutting corners and we are making sure that we are covering all our bases, so on and so forth.
Yes. So, then you can
Hello? Hello?
hello.
Yes, we are back again. Can you hear me? Hello?
I'm having difficulty. Yeah, I'm having difficulty hearing you. Can you just type your question to me on WhatsApp and then I can start speaking?
Sure. So maybe we can take one of the questions from the comments. So we had Sandhya ma'am who had asked, what does mitigating for GLOF entail for existing infra projects in the area, apart from, of course, not doing infra projects at all? Yes.
Now I can see you.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we are back.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you completely.
All right. So
Perfect.
I'm really sorry. There are a lot of people tuned in because I'm also getting WhatsApp from people who
Okay.
are not able to hear me. And
Right.
yeah, so they were like, it got cut off at a good
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
in the discussion.
Yes.
So you were asking me, how do you mitigate GLOF risk for present and future projects,
Yes. So
right?
that is one of the questions we got on the
So
comments.
yeah, so it's possible. You got to spend some money. You've got to cater for a much higher flow of water. When there is an emergency like a big flood or something, you got to cater for that. So it's basically a function of money.
Okay.
the, it's an engineering problem. It's perfectly solvable, right? Uh, but the problem is that it exposes the fundamental issue where if you got to spend so much money building a project in a place that has these extreme challenges, is it going to be cost competitive? That final
Right.
that is the kicker of the entire problem.
Right. No, but then again, that begs me to ask you a question. So again, now I'm putting myself in the government's role, right?
So
So
I would
if I'm
suggest,
the
Prathamesh, I'm having difficulty hearing you.
okay,
So you
I can
type
send you.
your question in the private chat or the
Sure,
comments, and then I will reply to it.
sure, sure. Sounds good. I'll send you on the private chat.
And to the audience watching, especially Sandhya, who was asking, so we have a big broadband scarcity in the mountains. So my should
Hello?
the government care about
Yeah.
financial viability, what is necessary for development in the region? We do a lot for financially unviable welfare projects across the nation already. Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? A welfare project would be a project that is built for irrigation, for example, that you want to help a lot more
Sorry, folks. There are some connection issues. So okay, Anu, do you want to? So I think it's better to end the stream right now and continue maybe over a Twitter space or something, because we are losing out every other minute.
it's not working.
Yeah. Sorry for that, guys. There are some connection issues because of which we'll have to end the stream right now. I'm so sorry. We were in the middle of a very interesting discussion, and we were in a really interesting flow. But what we'll probably do is we'll set up a Twitter space. We'll communicate the details over social media on Twitter, on Instagram, in some time, and maybe we can continue the rest of the conversation on the Twitter space, which will probably be much more feasible. Uh, so I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Whatever part of it you could enjoy. Let's hope we can catch you back again on the Twitter space, where we'll continue the conversation in terms of what are the next steps which we can do in terms of mitigating these kind of disasters, and if even more considering all the highway projects and the tunnel projects which are happening in the entire Himalayan range. There's another security angle which I would also love to explore. But let's see, we'll probably do a Twitter space sometime in the evening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving us your time, and see you next time. Bye bye.